How y'all doing today? My name is Devontae Williams, and the topic I will be talking about today is race and sports. Race and sports has always been synonymous with each other throughout many people's lifetimes, and sometimes the two as a whole has been seen in a positive light. From Jackie Robinson being the first African American to play in a major league in the modern era, from Bill Russell being the first African American head coach in the NBA, and with Tony Dungy become the first African American coach to win a Super Bowl in the NFL. While race and sports has had its bright moments, the worst moments surely supersedes the best. From African Americans not being able to participate in the MLB from the 1890s to the 1940s, or was Donald Sterling in his racist remarks on there being too many black people coming to his games, or with the Nazis not wanting Jews or African Americans to participate in the 1936 Olympics. More times than not, negative light has been portrayed upon the race and sports as a whole, especially in the era we're living in today. Now let's dive into some of the areas and spots in history where race and sports went hand in hand. Jackie Robinson. We're going to start with the Jackie Robinson portion of it. During the late 1800s, African Americans were not typically allowed to participate in any major or minor league baseball teams due to racism, but there was like a few on a couple major league and minor league teams. But by the time the year 1900 came, all the black people who were on the major and minor league teams were banned from the teams and could not be on the teams due to the Jim Crow laws. This led to many other black professional teams being made, which also led to many professional Negro baseball leagues, which also led to the first Negro National League to be made in 1920. And around 1945, teams started to have African Americans start to try out for the major and minor league teams because they started to see that African Americans could actually compete with the white counterparts. So on April 15, 1947, Jackie Robinson became the first African American to play in the major league in the modern era. This made Jackie Robinson a legend, not only in the black community, but across the world, with many people commenting on his impact in the world, how he broke racial boundaries in the sport. And that's how race and sports can go hand in hand with each other. Also, let's look at Adolf Hitler and the Nazis. In 1936, there was major opposition not to have a Summer Olympics played in Germany due to the Nazis' omnious ways. There were many racist remarks and actions that took place during the 1936 Olympic Games too. Instances where like Adolf Hitler wanted only the Aryan race to compete in Germany. He banned Margaret Lambert from participating in the Olympic Games because she was a Jew, even though she tied the German record for the high jump. And he also was pushing not to have African Americans participate in Olympic Games because he felt like they were add-ons and not real citizens of the USA. And he also banned Jews from participating in, using the facilities in Germany too to help them prepare to get ready for the Olympics. But he let the Aryan people use the facilities. And that's how race and sports go hand in hand with each other, with the racism on athletes from the Jews and the African Americans. Also, with the Asia and European Association football teams and stuff, there was a lot of racist remarks and racist things going on with them as well. The Asian government had to put in the laws during the 1900s to help decrease the violent actions and racism from fans in the audience to the Asian players. It was called the Football Offenses Act, which made people stop making racist chants towards the players on the court. Asian football players also felt it was an institutionalized race system against them, especially with the football recruiters from other communities that were not from Asia. They always felt like the scouts felt like they were too frail or not athletic enough to sufficiently play in other leagues, soccer leagues around the world. And also with the European Association football, a lot of people feel like it wasn't enough diversity in the areas where the organization had the most power. They felt like it was majority or almost all people, Caucasian people, who had the most power, and they always feel like those people would delegate the other jobs positions below them to other white people with power or socially powerful, rather than giving everybody else a good chance too. Also, with the athletes protesting with the Trayvon Martin incident, it led LeBron, D-Wade, Chris Bosh, and the Miami Heat to post pictures of them with hoodies on with the caption, "We want justice," because they were tired of African Americans showing discrimination to and racism towards too as well. And that's how sports and race can go hand in hand with each other too. Also, during the 2020 NBA playoffs, when Jacob Blake, an African man, was shot in Wisconsin by a police officer wrongfully and almost lost his life, this led to the Milwaukee Bucks walking out of the playoff game and boycotting it. And it also led to all the other teams in the NBA too having their games postponed too, due to the events of Jacob Blake getting shot by a police officer wrongfully. And that's how race, a man was shot of African American descent, which caused an uproar in the sports world, where majority of the sports players are African American. They felt like they were still being oppressed, so they decided not to participate in the basketball game. And to conclude my presentation, race and sports are gonna always be synonymous with each other, regardless if it's black people or white people, or Asian or Latin. It's always gonna be synonymous with each other, because that's just the world we live in. We live in a very prejudiced and discriminatory world, even from the standpoint where a lot of people think that black people are genetically superior as far as athletic ability than any other race, or they feel like Asian Americans are the least superior than genetically and physically than any other race as well. That's how sports, when it comes to sports, and that's how sports and race again can go hand in hand with each other. Or even every time there's a racial injustice in the world, from Trayvon Martin to Breonna Taylor, Michael Brown, George Floyd, Tamir Rice, and many others who were wrongfully killed by police officers due to prejudice in their skin color, you always see athletes from the sports world step up, protest, and unify with each other to fight for the wrongful cause, to fight against the wrongful cause. And that concludes my video on how race and sports go hand in hand. From Jackie Robinson, him being the first African American to break through the racial boundaries and play in the major league in the modern era, or how Adolf Hitler was very racist towards the Jews, not allowing them to use the same facilities or trying to ban them from playing in the Olympics, or with the Asia and Europe Association football leagues also being racist and prejudiced against the Asians, feeling like they aren't adequate enough to play in certain of the top soccer leagues, or how the European Association did not have enough diversity in their higher authority of power in their organizations, and they feel like they were giving that power to the lower positions, also to other people of the same descent as them, the Caucasian descent as them. And also how athletes protest too, when they feel like minorities are being did wrong, and you'll see in the sports world how they'll protest and how they'll come together, and how they'll even postpone games or kneel during the national anthem to fight against oppression due to their race.